give the cue and then can start.
Morning, Miss Marisa.
Hello, good morning. Architect.
Morning, Ma'am Marisa.
Press Vicky,
Hi, Marisa.
female,
Yeah.
Vice Chair
everybody.
Benny, to our special guest. Good morning.
Jenny, Mr. Benny.
And
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
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 We are now live on Facebook, NREA Philippines Facebook page. Welcome to everyone on Facebook. This is the National Real Estate Association Business Forum Online, Managing Real Estate Risks. We will be starting in a few minutes.
let's start.
Okay.
Okay. So, hi, good morning, Philippines. Good morning and good evening around the world. My co-host today is NREA Secretary General, Mr. Jovi Tupas.
Thank you very much to my partner and co-host, our NREA VP for Internal Affairs, Ms. Imelda Magtoto. And again, welcome everyone to our second NREA Online Business Forum with the topic, Managing Real Estate Risks.
So, to start our forum, we'll start it with a prayer. In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. We praise and thank you, Heavenly Father, for this second NREA Online Business Forum. We pray for your guidance, wisdom, and support. Help us engage in a meaningful interaction through this webinar. Fill us with your grace so that we may listen to our guest speakers who shall be your instruments to give us a great vision and enthusiasm in our work in the real estate industry, especially in these uncertain times. In a special way, protect each and every one of us with your mantle of protection from COVID-19 infection. We pray also for the full recovery and healing of those infected. All this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. In the name
Amen.
of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
First Park Homes Incorporated by President Ricky Celis, Mega Wide, Pag-ibig Fund, Davis Paint Reinvented. Our minor sponsor are Dudaville Realty and Development Corporation and E. Ganson Incorporated by Architect Grace Layud. First Park Homes is a first home brand of First Park Incorporated, which offer a way of living through its home's conceptive connected essentials and buying and selling experiences. Features the townhouse, the single, attached, and the bungalow. For Mega Wide, it is one of the leading and engineering and infrastructure company in the Philippines with the engineering, procurement, construction, transport, development. The Home Development Mutual Fund, popularly known as the Pag-ibig Fund, is a government-owned and corporation under the Department of Human Settlements and Development, responsible for the administration of national program and affordable shelters for Filipinos and foreign-based abroad. Our major sponsor also is Davis Paints, started in operation in 1982 under the Charter Chemical and Coating Corporation. E. Ganson Incorporated, our consistent sponsor, is a business of developing different kinds of condominiums and other residential and hotels that are technically endowed with innovation, green living, invention, unit buyers, and users. Minor sponsor are Dulavir Realty and Corporation also.
Thank you, Miss Imelda Magtoto, and for some of our announcements. NREA is offering a new normal rate for our new members. Also, for all licensed real estate practitioners who would like to avail of the PRC self-directed learning for CPD units, just type your full name with picture in the comment box on the Facebook page that you are watching right now. Take a photo or a selfie together with the ongoing NREA Business Forum and send it to NREA for the certificate of attendance with a small fee. For more information, you may contact the details below via email or via cell phone. Look for Miss Lane or Miss Eileen.
Our NREA Vice Chairman Benigno T. Cabrieta Jr. will do the introduction of the NREA Board of Trustees and Officers and Board of Advisors.
Morning, everyone. The National Real Estate Association Board of Trustees and Officers 2020. Our board chair lady is Architect Grace Sayog. Yours truly is the board vice chairman. Our president, national president, is Ricky M. Celis. Our EVP is Amy Florin Soon. Our vice president external is Resalito Red Rosales. Our vice president internal is Imelda May Magtoto. Our vice president external is Seni Fruto. Our vice president chapters is Joey Francis Tupas. Our treasurer is Nicole Anne Marie Choa. Our auditor is Ruth Marie Atienza. And our trustees are the following. Rodolfo D. Leonen is trustee. Anisito Bibisnar. Jeffrey is Bongat. Maria Victoria Pulisco. And I think I missed Dolores Da Costa as our trustee and PRO. For our board of advisors, we have our chair and emerita and chair lady of the board of advisors, Marisa Del Mar, architect Filino R. Palafox Jr., architect Nestor Esmangio, Alejandro Esmanyalak, Bansan Sichawa, and Marcelino C. Mendoza.
Thank you very much to our board vice chairman, Mr. Now, we move to our, let me introduce to you our NREA VP for chapters, Ms. Zeni Fruto, who will now acknowledge our NREA chapter presidents.
Seni, unmute.
Loud and clear ba?
Yes.
Okay. Now may I start with the NREA Metro CBD Chapter President, Ms. Emmy Pulido Talawe. And
Good morning.
We have our NREA Baguio Chapter, Joel Jimenez. And we have our NREA Bataan Chapter President, Juliet Riperzo. And we have our NREA Pampanga Chapter, Nino Ryan Dadula. And our NREA Zambales Chapter, we have our Dean Dave Lubong. And our NREA Cavite Chapter, we have Mr. Patricio Sosing, our chapter organizer, and the president is Sandy Corral. Now, our INREA Cebu chapter, we have Albonjo Golchano Jr.
Good morning,
and
ma'am.
Cagayan de Oro President. Good morning. Our chapter president for Cagayan de Oro is Violazita Soon. And of course, our chapter president for Zamboanga is our environmental planner, Jeffy Baluran. Thank you, everybody, for being present. Now, INREA is a one-stop trade organization composed of PRC licensed real estate brokers, PRC licensed real estate salesmen, appraisers, consultants, architects, engineers, property managers, environmental and urban planners. And of course, we have also our government legislators and corporate members and all individuals related to the real estate industry. Now I am inviting everybody to join us now in our in the family of INREA, and please call the numbers written on the flyer or in the screen, and please contact Ms. Lane or Ms. Suzette. Thank you and welcome to INREA.
For our INREA Secretariat, we have Ms. Suzette Pusung, the Executive Director, PR Officer Virgilio Maclang. We have our Executive Assistant Event Officer Lane Santawana, our Secretary INREA Education and Info Committee, Aileen Garlitos, our Admin Secretary, we have Paul Santos, our accounting staff, we have Maria Lourdes Angeles, and our liaison officer, Fernando M. Elijah. These are our hardworking INREA Secretariat.
Thank you very much to our, like what Ms. May said, our hardworking Secretariat team. At this point, may I now call our National Real Estate Association National President, Mr. Ricky Celis, to do the opening remarks.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to see all of you joining our second online business forum. We had our first one last month, June 23. It was very successful. No? Last time, we covered how we can redefine the new normal. A lot of insights, very useful insights, were generated from that discussion. How much some things have changed, and others, while affected in the short term, will actually have very marginal impact in the medium to the long haul. Some countries are coping better than others. No doubt this pandemic has really affected the global economy. Industries like real estate and construction, and most certainly people's jobs and financial standings. I think the real test for those who aim to survive and thrive is the ability to tap the opportunities that are still available or the ones that have been created, while of course eyes wide open on the new sets of risks that come with the territory. We have 3 resource speakers today joining us to share their views on how this balance between good prospects and red flags is reshaping the macroeconomic environment, or how it is rewriting the credit policies and processes of one of the biggest financial institutions of the housing industry, or how it is reinventing the dynamics of something as fundamental as digital buying and selling. So welcome speakers, welcome INREA members and guests on behalf of our Board of Trustees and Advisors, and of course our generous sponsors. Welcome all to INREA Online Business Forum. Thank you and good morning.
I thank you, Press Ricky. So we have house rules for this webinar. Please turn off your video, mute your microphone. Only the speakers will be unmuted. If you have questions, type them on the chat box The moderators will assess and handle the questions after all the speakers have spoken. Thank you.
Thank you very much, partner. So let's now start our business meeting. May I now call on our NREA National Treasurer, Ms. Nicole Choa, to introduce our first speaker.
Okay. Hi, good morning. So our guest speaker has a lot of achievements. To name a few, he is a governance consultant of World Bank, a global marketing professor of the Ateneo School of Business, an independent director of Resorts World Manila, and a board advisor of 25 different family businesses in Asia. He graduated from UP, Masters in Business Administration. Now, he is the Master in Innovation, Strategic Management, and Corporate Governance. Let me introduce an internationally sought-out resource speaker and advisor, Professor Enrique M. Soriano III.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate the invitation to deliver a talk here at NREA. Of course, I want to thank President Vicky for this invitation. Of course, to Andy for the privilege to deliver a brief talk about the state of the property sector. Again, most of those I see now are very familiar faces, especially my good friend Bansan, the first generation. But I think one thing is very clear. There's what I call knowledge is power. So therefore, as part of a growing advocacy to articulate the merits and the demerits of the current state of the sector, allow me to prepare and share my slides. So just give me a minute to just share my slides. Here goes. Okay. So I'm given 30-40 minutes to share my slides. I had the chance to do an economic briefing with the World Bank, and some of the slides here I had the fortune to share. So here goes. So like what Nicole mentioned, I am currently associated and heavily engaged with the IFC. And of course, I sit in some boards. So these are the books that I've done after I did a semi-retirement out of the property sector. Some of my corporate experience that's spanning around 35 years in the property sector. So some of you are probably familiar with some brands. And for the most part, it's been a roller coaster ride for the property sector as well. My academic experience was combined with my corporate experience, so that's around 27 years. So I do a lot of heavy fellowship with some universities outside the Philippines, and most of them on corporate governance and family governance. But if you look at the blue part, that's currently my advocacy, pretty much around 3 or 4 of them. So I'm gonna just walk you through briefly. My objective right now is really to save livelihoods, help one business at a time, and save as much SMEs as we can. So part of our talk today is I'm giving away a free template on a business plan. It's free. I will give you my website later. But those that are struggling right now, or perhaps those that have had really no plan in the past, but still had it so good, a business plan template would be very helpful as a fundamental guide for you. It's like a Bible for us business consultants. And this will be a big help. So later at the end of my talk, I'll show you my website. This is one of my major advocacies. I was able to pull resources together with a group. So we're building a manufacturing company that will manufacture masks. And the brand is actually First Protect. So So the machines are already here. We've started, and we're just waiting for FDA's approval. And then it's all systems go, because the intention is to, as soon as we flood the market here, we can take away most of the fake masks. No? That has been a big problem. And then from there, we export it in ASEAN, especially in Indonesia, where I have a lot of engagements. This is also another pursuit that I am pushing. It's again creating barangaypreneurs, no? Helping those that have been displaced, especially the marginalized workers, the daily wage earners. So creating a barangay entrepreneurship in their communities. So we're collaborating with a lot of city mayors now. Then, of course, it's really when Andy requested me, invited me, I said, why not? If it will rebuild the property sector that has been generous to all of us for the past 30, 40 years, there is absolutely no doubt we can help this industry get back on its feet. So this was the pre-COVID-19. Sometime January and February, we've had a wonderful run, and I'll explain that later. I was in Shanghai February, then I was in Singapore 5 days before the lockdown. So things were pretty okay. Then all of a sudden, this was the hard landing. The pandemic just fell on our lap. And on March 15, the lockdown hit us severely. So you look at it, the Philippines, as I speak now, we've surpassed China's number of infection from their April numbers. This is China. This is the Philippines now. So we're breaching 90,000 probably in the next 3 to 4 days. But you have to look at it from this perspective. Vietnam, they've flattened the curve as early as April 26. Of course, they have had some sporadic spikes in Da Nang 3 days ago. But yes, they pretty much licked the virus April 26 with 96 million population. It's not far from the Philippines, and yet they flattened the curve. That's another story. I'm writing about the column. I'm writing about Vietnam in a column, which will come out hopefully in the papers. So the red is Taiwan, right? The rest are just simply spiking. So this is the hard lockdown that I'd like to articulate and express. This extremely severe hard lockdown saved lives, and there's no doubt about it. It saved lives, but in effect, it also destroyed a lot of livelihoods. So I call it the cure is worse than the disease. So the cure of locking or mass quarantine pretty much impacted the state of the property sector and the entire economy. So the cure or the remedy is worse than the disease. And the Philippines may be heading to its deepest economic recession in 35 years. But it's during this crisis that investors should be on the prowl for good bargains that they can keep over a long-term horizon. Again, this is coming from BDO. So just look at the economic map from the time in the mid-80s. That was the time the Marcos administration was already waning, not winning, waning. It had a huge external debt to GDP ratio at 77.5%, a recipe for disaster for an emerging economy. Look at the blue. That's the inflation. Thankfully, we have managed to temper our inflation. That's on a danger side, but so far so good. The red is the unemployment rate. We have beaten practically everybody in terms of unemployment rate because we have increased to 17.7%. During Marcos' time, it was a high of 14%. But generally, we have gone up by 17.7%. The expectation it's going to be around 25.5% at the end of the year. And that's going to be tough then we're looking at what? GDP performance. So we've hit the bottom, and I'll walk you through later. But you can see the big difference. So this is under Duterte. The dilemma is if they borrow externally, their external debt to GDP ratio will go up, and that will spell a disaster for our economy because our BBB plus rating will eventually slide to stable and unstable or negative. That's what they want to avoid. Dominguez and Carl are trying to avoid a situation similar to what happened in 1985, where eventually it precipitated the downfall of the Marcos administration. So that's what I want us, especially the members, to understand, because knowledge is power. And if it's truthful, you at least know the picture of what's the current situation. So there's a likely contraction of around 5.9%, making a slide to the negative territory. It's the steepest decline in the second quarter, which I'm showing here. The likelihood of a decline is just too deep. So from a 0.2 in the first quarter, because ang lockdown lang naman was half of March, no? So okay pa yung January and Feb. But the entire quarter of Q2, negative 8.6. Some are saying it's negative 5. Just the same, two contractions means we are officially, or we have officially slipped into recession. Something to think about, because the world is obviously under a global recession as well. So in the Decode Financial Consulting Analysis, we see our industry is impacted. Not extremely impacted like gaming, like tourism, like the cruise, like airline, but it is moderately impacted, and it is still impacted. I sit in the board of Resorts World. Obviously, we have been impacted tremendously. Our affiliate, Star Cruises, cruise line, have been dramatically impacted. So real estate is in that category, but moderately impacted. So let's look at the green side, the potential winners. Food, healthcare, personal, information technology, and agriculture. Relatively safe. But on the red, you're looking at the entire picture. Hit, potential losers. So the preliminary results of an online survey conducted by my firm last March, April, May indicated that nearly 85% to 95% have experienced some negative impact on their business. So it looks like we are heading to a tailspin. The human, economic, and social costs are staggering, and the ultimate costs are only now being imagined. Some of our colleagues will prosper during this period, but most will struggle. And no economy will be spared. So some are fighting to stay alive or deal with a major decline in revenue. Most are feeling isolated as they make decisions that will shape their future. When I spoke to President Ricky and Andy a few weeks ago, we were just fortunate that we've been in this situation, similar situation, for the past many years, 3 decades. And therefore, we've gone through this. For the new ones, take heart, seek the wisdom of your elders, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. But pretty much, we hope we can do something about this. So this crisis is unprecedented. We're just the speck there in that picture. And there's a looming deep crisis that's going to hit us. So the hard landing has arrived. It's just a question of how we can manage to address the black swans. Right? So the black swan is what? The coronavirus. But there are many following the black swan. We call it the other black swans. Negative interest rates, global recession, corporate debt bubble, and oil price war. And some are saying, and I don't want to sound an alarmist, some are saying coronavirus is just a dress rehearsal for the big one. Right? Some are saying it's 100 times worse than coronavirus. But be that as it may, it's a question of how we can move forward, because the only choice is to really move forward. So the black swan is unpredictable, it's rare, it's surprising. They have a worldwide impact, catastrophic consequences on people, business, and economies. So most businesses are closed, absolutely. DTI reported that 52% of all their SMEs have declared a temporary work closure. And there is a fear is they might transition to permanent work closure. So far, how many jobs have been lost? Around 2.3 million. So far, close to 1 million overseas Filipino workers have been displaced. And some have come back. Some are waiting to come back. So what does this give us? Yesterday, I was in a forum on labor and employment. And a lot of questions were thrown at me, almost 100 questions. So clearly, issues like this are really impacting everyone. So I just want to pay attribution to some who contributed to this study. But it is, folks, a VUCA world, a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous market, which is impacting practically all aspects of the property sector. So this webinar objectives I classified it according to some very relevant topics. On the road and risks ahead, I talk about the economic system, the economic risks, then our role as stakeholders, a bit of a strategic insight, and maybe later a question and comment portion. So if you have questions, just click the Q&A button. So last January, in a Inquirer event.
Eric,
Yeah?
I think we lost your slides.
You lost my slides?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Let me see. Oh, okay. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Thank you.
I don't know which part did I lose. This one? Okay. So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I mentioned, these are the black swans. And there are many black swans. And the black swan is catastrophic, and it has worldwide consequences on people, business, and economies. So most companies are closing. We see them closing every single day. Around 1 million overseas Filipino workers have lost their jobs. 400,000 are waiting to go home but cannot. Around 2.3 million have lost their jobs domestically. And DTI has declared that 52% have moved from temporary work closure, and they're scared that they might translate to permanent work closure. So just an attribution. Some of the company that helped me in my research, and as I've said, it's the VUCA world. Now, this is the webinar objective. All right? I know in the interest of time, I'm just going to walk you through. So last January, I made a bold prediction. I'm not in the habit of making bold predictions, but January, after I flew in from Singapore, I was invited at the Manila Polo Club, organized by the Inquirer, to say my piece. I don't normally give bold predictions, but this was the headline in the Inquirer property they released. And I wrote an article. This is the article I wrote. Change will be huge in 2020. Now, hindi naman ako si Madam Auring, no? But I already told everyone to brace themselves for a calamity. And I even said, you don't have to do anything wrong to fail. Your competitors will just have to do it right to take you out of the game. Now, this was attended by around 200 developers. It was an extremely successful event. And this is part of my slide. Okay, I said a broader range of risks will emerge. New global risks will emerge. I said that. Climate change, accelerating behavioral change, political risk will be key. But I said, bottom line, property players will need to make sure they have the right capabilities and qualities. So this is what happened to us. March 15, and before that, a disruptive event, and practically the whole economy, not just us, but 207 economies in the world, tripped. It was disruptive, it was sudden, it was surreal, and the volatility just took the wind out of our system. So, this is what I'm saying, and many more to come. Now, so having said that, things are really bad, right? But not all bad things are meant to be bad. Now, what does this mean for business? What is the way ahead? We have to keep our mind in solutions mode. Yes, the property sector is not in good shape. With all the social distancing, all the trippings, the schedules, we barely cannot be mobile. BSP initiated what we expected all along. They started pouring money by buying bonds and securities with the intention of pumping cash into the market because there is no confidence in the market now. People in times of trouble are preserving their cash. So what did BSP do? They bought securities, they bought bonds, then they lowered interest rates to allow a certain level of confidence on markets, on borrowers, on lenders to at least borrow money so that money can be circulated. You see, in any crisis, it's all about the uncertainty and the lack of confidence in the economy. And therefore, BSP did what is expected of an economist: pump money back into the system. Did we budge? No, because the uncertainty is still there. The only certainty is extreme uncertainty. So the next wave that BSP would do is to further drop interest rates. And predictably, they did. I said it's anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5. It's now down to 2.2 something. But they cannot slide it further. That's the key here. Because the moment they continue to slide it, inflation will move up. That's why this dropping of interest rates is very temporary. We'd be happy if it extends up to the end of the year. Because you are also breeding inflationary issues along the way. So what's the next thing that Congress did? Stimulus package. Another textbook narrative of any economy. They created a stimulus package to bail out. Kaya ito yung mga ayuda. No? But that's it. Naubos na. 7% of our GDP hindi bumalik sa merkado. Kasi nga, pinigay natin sa kanila. And again, that was expected. Now they're creating another stimulus package. But that's not enough. Because a lot of companies are suffering. Right? So bottom line, where are we now? The next best thing that BSP will do is to print more money. It's called QE, quantitative easing. But it's going to create inflation. So they're trying to balance it. They cannot borrow overseas, otherwise their ratio will go up. So they will borrow domestically. So where we are today, the economy is officially in recession. Second quarter GDP showcased how the cure was detrimental to the economy. And the stimulus package, part 2, is coming. Of course, we know that the overseas Filipino workers' remittances will naturally drop as well. Right? Because people have been displaced. So look at the administration of Duterte. In a Collier's report, as the party ended, look at the Asian financial crisis. Look at the global financial crisis. We are heading even to the abyss. Right? Look at the Asian financial crisis. I mentioned to President Ricky and the NRIA members and the officers earlier that the Asian financial crisis was in Singapore, and I saw friends in Thailand committing suicide. That was one of the worst experiences we've had. Of course, we have had our own coup d'etat in '89, our people power in '86. But the Asian financial crisis was a regional contagion that started in Thailand when the baht was devalued. And our recovery took some time. A lot of white elephants that we see today is a product of the 1998 crisis. So what happened? We recovered for more than 2.5 years, 3 years. Some extended, some got burned totally. Then what happened? We bounced back. We suddenly, not suddenly, after 3 years, we started to pick up. Then you had the 911. Then another spike. Then we got hit by another issue on greed, which is the global financial crisis, the subprime, which did not impact us as much because it only took 2 years for us to eventually recover. We went up again. America was bloodied. But the two are similar. Why? Because it was a product of greed. So the only remedy to greed, aside from the Bible, is what? Bailouts, a financial bailout, because it was an economic, a financial crisis. So what happened? Then we had it so good. It was all good for the property sector. Then all of a sudden, March just simply hit us, and we were so unprepared here. What is this? This is not necessarily financial crisis. How it started, it was health. Then it morphed into economic. Health crisis, economic crisis, global crisis. So you don't just need a bailout here, you need a vaccine. And that uncertainty is really crippling our economies, right? In Asia. So what people are experiencing now is basically the tip of the iceberg. But IMF has said we are going to go through the worst recession since the Great Depression and worse than the Asian financial crisis because the iceberg is so deep. So I'm not an alarmist here. I'm just being truthful, but there are remedies that can be addressed. So what do we expect here? This one. Forget about the V-shape. It's not going to happen anymore because the recovery for a V-shape was like SARS, 6 months. Then eventually we recovered quickly. Here, it's a distorted V. That's why it's U-shape. Some are saying it's an L-shape. It's like a Nike swoosh. Which is which? It's up to us. In between, there's a W shape. It's a double dip, right? So where are we in this U or L? That's why a business plan is needed. And that's why you need to prepare. See? So the recovery here for the Philippines, I am looking at, again, this is not a bold prediction, is what? Forget about the V. That's not going to happen. Perhaps the U. So U recovery is what? Possibly 3 to 4 quarters here. The L shape is longer here. So think about this. When is that possible recovery? We're talking about Q1. Here we're talking about Q3, 2021. Hopefully it will not slide to this. All right? So just giving you a heads up on what's happening in the market. So the U, L, and W shape all envisage some negative impact and will leave economic scars. So the Philippines, which was among Asia's fastest growing economies, is set to go to the negative territory, which we have done already this quarter and last quarter, to hopefully an optimistic 2% growth. No bold predictions, but in real estate, it will ultimately depend on the lending, spending, and employment. So the road and risk ahead. I know I have very limited time. What's the road and risk ahead? This was pre-COVID situation. When conditions are favorable for lenders, low unemployment, high consumer spending, confidence was high, home loan programs abound. The banks practically beg us, gave us a lot of portfolio, attractive financing schemes, and developers came up with wonderful terms. And buyers became plentiful, and home equity grew. Typical of a good seller's market, pre-COVID. But sadly, the 11-year confidence has ended. Favorable employment will translate to increase in home sales. Banks increase their portfolios by offering more loan products. Employment-related population increases often follow. Down payments and stretch payments become more common, and values rise. And a development frenzy follows. I think most of you know this, where I'm coming from. Increases in home financing. When the number of home loan programs increases, home ownership increases. This sometimes it's not dangerous. It's just the economic cycle. It can be a clear sign, though, that there's a gathering storm. 4 years ago, in Sheda, when I was asked to deliver a talk, I said already 4 years ago, we have to be ready that the market will be softening soon. I don't know if people listen. But it is a gathering storm, especially when buyers increase housing obligations while their income remains the same. So look at it this way. I'm going to use our good friend, Andy Manyala, who's very wealthy. Andy is working. Andy had financing for a condominium. Because of the confidence of the market and the wonderful development and the frenzy happening, Andy, who's probably making, say, 2 to 3 million a month, goes to a bank, borrows and buys a condo, and then borrows again for a halfway house. So Andy now is saddled with 2 condominiums that he has to service, right? And all of a sudden, for whatever reason, hypothetically, Andy, as a CEO of a big company, loses his job. Now he is saddled with 2 clear housing obligations. What's going to happen to Andy? When Andy is laid off, and there are thousands of Andys that will be laid off and there will be pay cuts, what's going to happen? The likes of an Andy will find themselves at the mercy of downsizing or even foreclosure. Now, the assumption here is Andy is a president of a manufacturing company. So downsizing can mean a shift to homeowners renting. This is what I'm saying. So Andy, who is the head of a manufacturing company, right, suddenly was downsized. So he got laid off. So what's going to be the next option of Andy? He has to unload his house. If the impact is so huge and Andy did not save money, he will end up renting. From purely downloading, he downgrades to a rent. Same lifestyle, but under a rental. So if Andy was living in, say, a development in BGC, he probably will sell that house but stay in the same condo under a rental arrangement. That's going to be the worst thing that could happen. So this quarter and the succeeding quarters, when unemployment rates increase, the impact will be felt, and it's just a matter of time. When professionals become unemployed, consumer spending decreases and the market becomes flooded with available properties. Ito na yung secondary market. Then Andy might sell it for a song because he needs money to amortize his other condominium. So this drive values down, affecting our sector. When values continue to fall, it often leads to homeowners in multiples that are suddenly underwater, owing more on their mortgages than their houses are worth. So this scenario now becomes dire. When markets become saturated with mortgage debt, banks will instinctively apply some form of credit tightening. Ayaw na nila. And they will pressure us now. Restructure na tayo. give us PDCs now, and so on and so forth. Loan loss provisions are immediately activated by banks to avert a possible crisis of confidence within the banking system, not just with the bank, but the entire ecosystem. It has happened for a few banks the past 3 months when there was chismis. So they created their own loan loss provision. With the squeeze, pressure builds, restructuring happens, and in some cases, foreclosure looms. Historically, banks and other lenders are only loyal during a time of success. And we call them, sa Tagalog, weather friends. Right? They suddenly become strict and firm. Whereas during the good days, they practically knelt in front of our altar. So, Collier said it's all about unemployment, interest rate, consumer confidence. Now, I'm going to the last part, the opportunity naman, because I talk about a truthful account of what has happened. Every black swan is unique. What does this mean for stakeholders? What is the way ahead? You are all stakeholders here. How do we navigate the COVID-19 crisis? It's all about what? Our market understanding. It's all about our resiliency. It's all about our preparation. It's all about our burning desire. It's all about the choice to move forward. It's all about all of this. It's up to us, really. Under such circumstances, we can choose which of these do we want to belong to. Are we a pessimist? A pessimist complains about the wind. Are we an optimist where we expect it to change? And a realist adjusts the sail. So which is which? A pessimist feels hopeless. You've seen that. Your friends, your developers, your bosses, your colleagues, they feel hopeless. Right? I remember Andy sent me an email before the invitation that we're lucky that we went through many cycles of the property sector, that we know what was it like in the 1980s, in the 1990s. So, but the pessimist who doesn't know what happened in the past feels hopeless. If he was with us during the 98 crisis, he probably had so much trauma in the 1998 crisis that he said, forget it. And he now becomes highly conservative. And his behavior is demotivating. An optimist is a positive thinker, but he continues to do the same way. He doesn't change. And in most cases, he won't succeed as well. Kasi hindi pa rin nagbabago, old style. A realist is a seller who is alert and watchful of changing realities. He's a developer who knows the market and is prepared to deal with it by changing and adjusting his business model. So the changing landscape have major implications. The black swan, but the pandemic is a bitch, which means you can look for kinks in his or her armor. And stakeholders must adapt early to survive. We are under a discomfort zone. You need to do is to survive and move to the growth zone. So how do you go about it? For the pessimist, you might want to get out of our industry. Kasi you might rub off on that bad, negative vibe to the optimist and the realist. But there's no point going out or jumping ship. Because history has proven that economies have recovered after any black swan event and even perform much better. Take note, even perform much better after. So, the best investment on earth is earth. We know that. And how do we move forward together? This is the last slides. First, I look back at the Andy, who is CEO of a manufacturing company. So Andy has two options when he got laid off. Andy will either buy another house, pero downgraded version. Bahay ni Andy, malaki dati because he was CEO. Now, Andy will buy a smaller, a downgraded version. That market is fine because the downgraders will move in that direction. You'll just have to look for that. If Andy doesn't want to buy because he was crippled, there's technically another opportunity, the rental market. So ulitin ko, that buying of a downgraded house is another opportunity for another segment. But if Andy chooses to rent, another opportunity for the rental segment. See, not all is lost. Even if residential A got impacted, this one, meron naman eh. Meron naman. So forget about this. It's beyond our control. But residential has a lot of opportunities. So what do we expect in 2020 and 2021, in quarter two? The market will develop more opportunities for the sector. A medical building, for instance, is a real estate play. What you see now, the REITs, is part of real estate. New home concepts is part of a new startup form of real estate where growth can be acknowledged. Combining wellness and asset management and all of this in one community makes your real estate play a big one. That's why I'm doing consulting work for a lot of Singaporean and Indonesian developers. We are now preparing to blend all of this because these are still growth sub-asset classes. So we don't look at purely as a residential and it's impacted. No, the opportunities, there are many kinds of other asset classes that can be relied upon when it comes to crisis situations. So this is why I'm saying real estate per se is hurt, but there are other forms of real estate that are likely to be in the growth stage. And I just mentioned the blue as opposed to the red. So recapping this, Philippine real estate is unique. Our economy is resilient. Real estate is localized. Whatever is happening in Makati does not reflect what is happening in Alabang. Whatever is happening in Cebu may not reflect what is happening in the Bay Area. That's why I meant it's localized, unlike in other countries in ASEAN. Price points are developer driven. Most developers will hold on to the price as long as they can, but offer discounts, offer payment terms. But a solid developer, a good thinker, will not drop its prices. Only the stupid ones that doesn't know the dynamics of the property sector, right? But the secondary market is a different story because it's a supply and demand thing. If Andy, who is not real estate, who is not in real estate, and is a manufacturing guy and is desperate for cash, he will drop his condo for a song, and that will trigger an avalanche of a bidding war. That's the secondary market. Brand equity and a powerful concept are key differentiators for major players. If you don't have that, don't participate in this industry that we have longed to love. Make sure you have a compelling business model and a great concept. Isip lang yon. There are so many. I'm helping a lot now overseas. All it takes is a lot of thinking process. And finally, resilient communities can withstand this crisis. There are areas that are resilient that can withstand where the behavior, the ecosystem is working, right? Price points are solid, rentals are solid, and they can thrive, right? So it's important to identify those resilient communities or create one, because in a muted recovery, it could take more than 5 years for the most affected sectors to get back. But in real estate, some are looking at 2025. Sad. Some are looking at the last quarter of 2020. But real estate, look at construction and real estate. The expectation is even early, fourth quarter of 2021. Right? This is a McKinsey study. And the Philippines is likely to be working within the yellow. So there is a lot of opportunities that can be made. I cannot speak for Malaysia. I cannot speak for Thailand. I cannot speak for Singapore because their economy is battered now, worse than ours, because their domestic and their GDP and their debt ratio is extremely high and it's maturing. So, closing, my suggestion is what? For investors and sellers, for players, be objective. Look at long-term investments, understand macro trends, new opportunities, manage your cash flow, invest on great assets, manage your health, and enjoy life. This crisis is one of those crises. It will be protracted, but if you know that you are here for the long term, by all means, stay in the game and focus. Because by land, they're not making it anymore. So, to wrap this up, action conquers fear. Execute the plan. Right? Have a plan. Have a solid plan. Stay healthy and safe. Even if you're pushed in the cliff, pwede ka pa mag-selfie. Because that's how it is. And there are many things that are happening in the market now. Japan green lights another second coronavirus treatment because it's slashing mortality rates. This was approved already, remdesivir. And it's now on clinical trial, on its third. There are many vaccines that are being practically a race for that vaccine. Right? Avigan, set for approval this month in Japan as a coronavirus drug. These are facts, guys. And this will allay the uncertainties. Fujifilm cuts coronavirus test to 75 minutes. PCR is what? 5 days? 75 minutes. So, this is why I'm saying, if the Philippines is the green, look at Taiwan and Vietnam. It's all about inspired leadership in their administration. They flattened the curve. And you know what? As a positive footnote, look, Vietnam started welcoming their first Japanese contingent 3 Saturdays ago. They've started the invites for investors to come to Japan, to come to Vietnam, because they leaked the virus April 26. So, positive. And that ends my talk. So, for those who want to build the business plan, this one, that's my website, wbadvisoryasia.com. So, I know I've extended, and thank you for the opportunity. I can probably pass the mic to the MC. Thank you so much.
Now is right time. First Park Homes was formed from the partnership between Century Properties Group and Mitsubishi Corporation, having that goal to raise the standards of community housing in the Philippines without costing too much. Unlike other housing communities, First Park Homes is actually what they call the 4 C's. It's the brand pillars which they follow. It stands for complete, conceptive, connected, and convenient. Oh, complete because their homes are fully finished, which means the walls are painted, you got your complete flooring. This place is secure and you got provisions to expand. Basically, all you need are your furniture and you're ready to move in. How easy is that? Conceptive because First offers amenities which go beyond the basic. Get this, for every subdivision, there is a specific theme for the amenities which can be enjoyed by both young and young at heart. They have amenities that promote the arts, encourage good health, build social development, and strengthen the community. Like for example, in Bulacan, they have these life-sized board games. In Lipa, they have traditional Pinoy games, and they even have an outdoor cinema. I think it's really amazing that they're introducing unique amenities for families to enjoy. First aims to keep everyone connected to life essentials. Imagine they even have a shuttle to bring you to nearby transport hubs. Now that is hassle-free. Lastly, convenient. Owning your first home is now easy. through First simplified buying process. Owning a First Park home is more than just an investment. It's your first home that lasts.
Thank you, our major sponsor, First Park Homes by President Ricky Cedis. Also, thank you, Professor Eric, for that informative and well-researched talk. So we'd like to acknowledge the presence of our Cebu chapter president, Mr. June Goltiano, President Romel Agasita of Pangasinan chapter. We have also OIC Sandra Coral of Enrea Cavite chapter, President Emmy Pulido, the Metro CBD chapter president. We have also our Miss Sol Liboro, the Chief of Staff of Miss Acosta of Pag-ibig Fund, Architect Ronnie Biando, the President of UAP Quezon City Electrical Chapter, Mr. Rick Bayaw, the Enrea Lecturer from Baguio, Architect Isolde or Sol Flores Prado, Mr. Bong Magtoto watching from LA, hi. We have our new member, real estate consultant Kenneth Choba. We have Mr. Lani Akay of Megawide Construction Corporation, Miss Rowena Trinidad of Davis Paints. And now for our next speaker. Our speaker is a proud Ilocana, a certified public accountant. She lived and breathed Pag-ibig Fund all her life. Working from the ranks, she climbed the Pag-ibig corporate ladder up to her present position as the Deputy Chief Operation Officer for the Pag-ibig Fund Home Lending Operation Cluster. Let us welcome Pag-ibig Fund Deputy CEO Marilyn Acosta.
Thank you, Ma'am Imelda. Good morning to all our partners and friends from Enrea and my fellow speakers. Thank you for inviting us to your second online business forum. And this will allow us to share with you how we have been serving our members and the country amid the pandemic. Let me start by showing you the Pag-ibig Fund snapshot. Next slide, Sol. Yeah. Okay. This is a snapshot of your Pag-ibig Fund. Pag-ibig Fund had its best year ever yet again in 2019. By year 2019, Pag-ibig membership stood at 14.69 million active members. Collectively, members saved 50.38 billion last year, which is the highest on record. Pag-ibig Fund assets amount totaled to 603.39 billion by the end of the year. Considered another banner year for the Pag-ibig Fund, we earned our highest ever net income of 34.37 billion. This is good news to all our members because 90% of our net income, or 31.07 billion, were given back to members in the form of dividends. Your Pag-ibig regular savings earned a dividend rate of 6.73 last year, much higher than the time deposit rates. And if you save under our MP2 savings, you further earned a dividend rate of 7.23%. To serve our members in the country, we operate 137 branches across the archipelago. We have also 20 posts worldwide to provide service to Filipino workers. As you can see, Pag-ibig Fund has been steadily growing through the years, and it achieved another banner year financial-wise in 2019. Its gross income peaked at 51.67 billion. Its net income, meanwhile, hit a record of 34.37 billion, outpacing the second largest bank in the country by a margin of 6.32 billion. 2019 was a truly banner year, with your Pag-ibig Fund, as I mentioned a while ago, posting our highest net income and highest dividend payouts in our history. And thanks to our developer partners, your partnership actually contributed largely to this high net income, because 70% of the net income of Pag-ibig Fund comes from housing operations. And we are happy that this success redounds to the benefit of our members in the form of high dividends on their savings with us. So if you notice, our dividend rate for regular members is 6.73, and later on you will see that our interest rate is at 6.375. So the dividend rate is higher than the interest rates of our housing. Pag-ibig Fund also broke its housing-related accomplishments as it released a total of 86.74 billion to finance the homes of 95,276 members, exceeding the targets by 115% for loan value and 105% in terms of number of units. Of the total amount, 10.64 billion was released for socialized housing, benefiting 27,145 borrowers belonging to the minimum wage and low-income earners. Take note po that the affordable, we only charge 3% for these socialized housing packages. So that's our 2019 accomplishment. Let me show you also our first half accomplishment. So as of June 30, 2020, our active members is at 13.57 million. So if you notice, it at 14.69 in end of 2019, now it's 13.57. We already felt the impact of the COVID. Pag-ibig Fund has released for over 20.8 billion from January to June to finance the acquisition of 20,631 homes for its borrowers. So, and then from January to June, Pag-ibig Fund's gross income reached 22.82 billion, driven mainly by growth from its investments and returns in its housing loans and from our short-term loans, otherwise known as cash loans. The agency's net income, meanwhile, amounted to 14.14 billion. Total assets of Pag-ibig Fund also grew by 29.2 billion from 2019 levels and now amounts to 632.59 billion. Coming from a record-breaking year in 2019, Pag-ibig Fund home releases slowed down as the country implemented measures to curb the pandemic. For the first half of the year, Pag-ibig Fund has released over 20.8 billion from January to June to finance the acquisition of 20,631 homes. So if you notice po, for the first semester, we only hit 47% of our target. You're supposed to take out 44.15 billion, but only we have only taken out 20.81 billion. In terms of number of units, we're supposed to take out 46,196 units, but it's down to 20,631 as of June. Breaking down these numbers per month, we can see how the pandemic has affected our operations in the last few months. The agency started the year on a high note with home releases reaching 5.5 billion in January, then rising further to 6.5 billion in February. But with the rise of the COVID-19 infection in March and the implementation of strict quarantine measures imposed in Metro Manila and other parts of the country for national safety, home loan releases dipped to 3.8 billion in March and 880 million only in April. In May, as quarantines were expected were either eased or lifted, the numbers started to improve when home loan releases increased to 1.2 billion in May and 2.92 in June. Pag-ibig remains optimistic, although after listening from Professor Soriano, we should all be realists. We expect to bounce back in the coming months, especially since we cut our home loan rates to as low as 4.985% per annum until December 29, 2020. Hopefully, by end of July, we will be back to the 5 billion level in loan releases. What have we been doing during the ECQ? Even during the ECQ, we continued to deliver our mandate. We came up with interim policies and procedural guidelines on takeout mechanism for developer-assisted accounts. From March 17 to June 30, when the enhanced community quarantine was imposed in NCR and other areas, Pag-ibig Fund released a total of 5.68 billion to finance the home acquisition of 5,281 members under our regular housing program and also the affordable housing program. That is for our loan takeouts. What about for our collections of loan amortizations? Following the implementing rules and regulations of Republic Act 11469 or the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, Pag-ibig implemented a payment reprieve to its borrowers. Under the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, borrowers of all lenders in the country were given a 30-day extension for loan payments, further extended until the end of the quarantine period, and were allowed to pay on its next due date. The mandatory grace period also allowed the staggered payment of the accrued interest on the unpaid principal within the remaining term of the loan. With the grant, Pag-ibig Fund allowed the deferment of loan payments amounting to over 15 billion, giving 713,000 housing loan borrowers and over 4.6 million cash loan borrowers one less thing to worry about during the quarantine. On the moratorium program, this is our second program for the pandemic. At the onset of the quarantine imposed in Metro Manila, Pag-ibig Fund was quick to act to help its members. Just days after the nation's capital was locked down, Pag-ibig Fund offered a 3-month loan payment moratorium to its borrowers to help ease their worries and allow them to channel their finances to acquire goods and services that they will need during the enhanced community quarantine. Pag-ibig Fund's moratorium program was made available to members who wanted to extend their due dates by at least 90 days without incurring penalties. The moratorium covered all Pag-ibig loans, housing loan, multipurpose loan, and calamity loan with due dates that fell within the ECQ period from March 16 to June 15, 2020. Upon the moratorium program's availability in March, Pag-ibig Fund received an average of 12,400 applications in a day. In the moratorium period, the agency received a total of 196,307 applications for STL and 143,599 applications for home loans. We have approved 81% of the STL applications and 71% for housing loans as of July, but as of yesterday, 98% was already approved. The moratorium applications approved was already at 98%. What is the difference of the grace period and the 3-month moratorium? So you can see that under the grace period, there is no need to apply for the grace period because it is automatic. But for moratorium, you have to apply, the borrower had to apply online via the virtual Pag-ibig, and it ended last June 15, 2020. How about the basis, the legal basis for this program? For the grace period, it is provided for in under the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. And for the moratorium program, this is offered by Pag-ibig Fund in times of calamity. On due dates, what are the covered loan payments? Under the grace period, due dates within the ECQ, including its extension, are covered. Whereas for moratorium, all housing loan amortizations due from March 16 to June 15, 2020 are covered. Under the moratorium, it's as if the loan term of the loan is extended by another 3 months. On the interest under the grace period, the interest during the grace period was spread over the remaining term of the loan. For the moratorium, no interest will be charged during the 3-month moratorium period. So how are we serving our members during this time of pandemic? Under the new normal, Pag-ibig Fund asked all clients to adhere to our health and safety protocols whenever they visit our offices to protect the health of everyone involved. These include wearing your mask at all times, allow our security officers to check temperature, disinfect footwear, strictly observe physical distancing, and sanitizing your hands. Why are we showing you this? Because we hope that you will ask your buyers, who are our borrowers, that when proceeding to our offices, they will strictly adhere to these health and safety protocols for their protection and also for the protection of our lingkod. Else, this one, to further promote convenience and safety, Pag-ibig Fund encourages its members to use the new and improved Pag-ibig Loyalty Card Plus. As an added feature, the Pag-ibig Fund Loyalty Card Plus now can be used as a cash card, where borrowers can receive the proceeds of their multipurpose loans, MP2 dividends, and other benefits. You may ask, are housing loan releases also disbursed through Loyalty Card Plus? Hindi po. It provides convenience to the borrowers because it dispenses waiting time for check clearing, and the loan proceeds can be withdrawn in ATMs. Actually, they need not go to the branch of Pag-ibig offices to get the check and then go to the bank to encash the check. This is one of the agency's many ways to simplify its processes and hasten the delivery of service during the new normal. The Loyalty Card Plus can now be used as a debit card for cashless transactions and is equipped with an EMV chip, the same technology used in debit and credit cards, to ensure security of transactions. The Loyalty Card Plus is also the easiest way to access the fund's virtual Pag-ibig, an online service portal that allows members to conduct transactions anytime, anywhere. The Virtual Pag-ibig is an online portal of the agency's services, making its services available to members anytime, anywhere. Virtual Pag-ibig was unveiled on December 12, 2019, during the celebration of our 39th year anniversary. By logging in to the Virtual Pag-ibig, one can immediately enjoy the agency services such as securing a Pag-ibig membership ID. The MID is actually a requirement for your buyers or our members in their housing application. Taking the initial step to enroll for an MP2 savings account for those who would like to save on Pag-ibig 2, they can also use through the virtual, log into the Virtual Pag-ibig, and monitoring their loan application status. Members may access even more services by creating their own Virtual Pag-ibig accounts. With an account, members can have access to their savings records, view their loan balances, and get the latest news and updates about Pag-ibig Fund. So how is this useful to our developers? Instead of you asking Pag-ibig Fund to verify po yung tawag po natin, we call MSBS, you can ask the buyer or our member to log into the Virtual Pag-ibig to be able to get the records of her membership and also the record of her short-term loans. Members can also monitor and view the last 10 transactions made with their Pag-ibig Fund Loyalty Card Plus. The Virtual Pag-ibig also features an online payment facility that allows members to pay their loans and remit their monthly savings through PayMaya or with their Visa, MasterCard, or JCB credit cards. It also has a real-time chat facility that allows members to talk to a Pag-ibig Fund service personnel to address any concern. Pag-ibig Fund members can create an account in 3 ways. Pag-ibig Fund Loyalty Card Plus holders can activate their account using their card number. Those who do not have a Loyalty Card Plus can also open an account online, which they can later activate by visiting any Pag-ibig Fund branch. You may ask, why is there still a need to visit the Pag-ibig Fund branch? Because this is similar to a debit card, so we have to request the member to appear personally to our branches. The Pag-ibig Fund International Operations has also set up an activation process especially designed for OFWs. We know that around 20% of our Pag-ibig Fund borrowers are OFWs, so we also set up a facility where our OFW can activate their Pag-ibig Loyalty Card Plus. Soon, Pag-ibig Fund will launch the virtual Pag-ibig for developers. I know you've been waiting for this, which will help fast-track housing loan applications by allowing partner developers to determine whether or not a borrower is qualified for a Pag-ibig housing loan. But may I emphasize that before you can have access to the data of the member, you have to request an authority po from the borrower. What else are we doing to help our economy recover amid the pandemic? Maybe you have heard recently that we have a Pag-ibig Fund has increased to 10 billion, its home construction fund, in a bid to encourage production of housing units for its members and help boost the national economy. The agency, Pag-ibig Fund, allocated 10 billion for its house construction financing line, or what we call HCFL, to ensure not only the continuous production of more socialized and low-cost homes to address the housing needs of our members, but also to serve as a stimulus to the housing industry, which have broader effects on our economy. Pag-ibig originally set aside 2 billion for the HCFL, but the board approved via referendum last May 20 an additional 8 billion to the construction fund, housing construction fund, to further boost production of housing units, which includes socialized and low-cost homes. As of July 24, 2020, we have already approved 1.08 billion worth of HCFL projects. Another program which we launched during the pandemic is our promo rates for Pag-ibig housing loans. Pag-ibig Fund is offering for a limited time special low rates of 4.985% per annum under a 1-year repricing period and 5.375% per annum under a 3-year repricing period to help members acquire homes and help boost the national economy amid the pandemic. As mentioned by Professor Soriano a while ago, people tend to keep their cash in times of trouble. That's why we came up with the promo rates with the hope that those with capacity to borrow now will avail of the Pag-ibig housing loan. This further reduced the agency's previous rates, already pegged at a low of 5.375% per annum for the 1-year repricing and 6.375% per annum for the 3-year repricing period. Meanwhile, interest rates for its affordable housing program, available for low and minimum wage earners, remain at its lowest, with a subsidized home loan interest rate of 3% per annum. By offering these special rates to our members, we are spurring economic activity in the housing industry, which has a ripple effect on the national economy. With that, that ends po my presentation, and we hope you will help us extend more loans to our members even during the pandemic. Why are we doing all of this? 10 billion housing construction fund, promo rates, because we hope that this can help our nation recover given the multiplier effect of our housing industry in the economy. So, maraming salamat po, and magandang umaga sa inyong lahat.
Okay, we would like to again thank Ms. Acosta for that very enlightening updates on Pag-ibig Fund. We would also like to acknowledge Ms. Lani Akay of Mega White Construction Corporation, Ms. Rowena Trinidad of Davis Paints. We would also like to acknowledge Architect Annie Corpus, who's the principal architect of Infinity Concepts. We would also like to acknowledge Mr. Ryan Dadula from our Pampanga chapter, and also Mr. June Aristorenas of our Metro CBD Treasurer. Again, at this point, may I call on our National Trustee and Education and Information President, Mr. Rodolfo D. Leonen, to introduce our third speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, real estate consultant Imelda Magtoto and real estate consultant Joby Tupas. Broadcasting here live at the Sovereign Republic building at Rizal Avenue. I was tasked to introduce our next speaker. Of course, our next speaker is one of our veteran real estate industry who brings with him a very extensive experience in real estate, in the industrial sector, commercial segments. Over the course of his career, he had various leadership positions in some of the most regarded and successful real estate companies in the Philippines as well as abroad. At Ayala Land, our speaker held key positions in local and international residential sales and in the real estate management and in small groups. Our speaker later joined the SM Prime Holdings Inc., one of our top leaders in the development sector, where he managed the Mall of Asia complex in 2008 to 2016. Incidentally, I was also part of that development program for SMTC on the Bay Area. He also played a very important role in building successful Skyruns venture, a 5.7 hectare leisure park. And prior to joining the company where he now heads, our speaker, we fondly call him Dave, headed a multinational real estate company with operations across Asia Pacific. Okay? It covers actually the Asia Pacific region rim. And of course, our speaker steering the national expansion of the group where he holds now as a president and CEO, the Aboitiz Group's real estate arm. He is intent to further to grow portfolio township developments of the Aboitiz Land Incorporated. Our speaker holds an MBA from the Darling School of Business and the University of Virginia in the US, and a bachelor's degree in philosophy from Ateneo de Manila. We would like to hear and listen to our speaker, his opinion, his views, and ideas on the subject matter, particularly real estate risk management. They are the holders of our what we call supply. As developers, please join me in welcoming our speaker, Mr. David Rafael, President and CEO of Aboitiz land. Thank you very much.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for the very enthusiastic introduction, Audie.
Balik. Mag-meeting ko eh.
Hello. Yeah. And also thank you for Andy Manyalak, Ricky Celis, for giving me the privilege to address this very wonderful and I would say very respected organization. It's nearing 12 o'clock, so I hope I can finish my presentation in as short time as possible because many of you are probably looking forward to lunch. Anyway, so the title of my presentation is Opportunities Abound, Real Estate Trends and Aboitiz Land Developments. So my presentation will really be just 3 parts. Now, I'll just give you a very brief overview of Aboitiz Land. And secondly, I'll probably cite some trends that we're seeing as a result of all this pandemic, largely from a study that was done by Lamudi. Lamudi is a leading property portal here in the Philippines as well as in Asia, and they did a very nice research study, and I'd like to share some of the findings, some of the insights. And finally, I'd also like to talk about how Aboitiz Land specifically, what are we doing differently in terms of our sales operations, marketing, given the lockdown scenario. Okay, so this is me. I've been a real estate professional for 31 years. Next slide. Okay, and then Aboitiz Land is really part of the Aboitiz conglomerate, which spans several industries. Now they're primarily in power. They're also in food through Pilmico. They're also recently they entered into the infra development, airports. You probably heard that they were part of the NAIA consortium. And then they're also in banking and services through a majority stake in Union Bank. Of course, they're very strong in social enterprise and Aboitiz Land. Next slide, please. So Aboitiz Land, just a very brief history. It was actually started way back in 1994. So we're almost 25 years now. It started in Cebu, and then in 2001, that's when it assumed the Aboitiz Land name. And then one of its major moves, because until it was mostly a Cebu developer, but it made a major move to move out of Cebu when it acquired Lima Land, say industrial estate in Lipa. They also moved their headquarters in 2015, and so now at the moment we're also doing a lot of other new projects, which I will breeze through in the next few slides. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so just very briefly, we're into the residential, commercial, and industrial segments of the real estate market. So let me go through it very briefly one by one. For the residential, these are the kinds of projects and the locations they're in. And I'm showing this maybe because some of you may not be aware of it now. So just very briefly, our residential projects basically cater to maybe the mid to upper mid market segment, basically located outside of Metro Manila. So this is one example. Now we have a development in Ahoya, Cabanatuan. It's in Nueva Ecija. The whole area is about, can you go back? No. Whole area is about 19 hectares. And we sell house and lots at 3 to 5 million price range. Next slide. So another development we have, which is in this really in the central Luzon corridor, is in it's called Ahoya Capas. It's in Tarlac. So the total land area is 13 hectares. We're selling house and lots between 1.8 to 4.4 million, and lots only from 900 to 1.5. Next slide. Another development we have in the central Luzon corridor is Ahoya Pampanga. So this is in Mexico, Pampanga. 17 hectares with price range of 2.3 to 3.7 for house and lots, and 800 to 1.5 million for lots only. Next slide. Now over in South Luzon, so those are our North Luzon projects. In South Luzon, we have basically 2 residential projects. We have the villages at Lipa. No, this is in Lipa, Batangas, and it's really right across the Lima Technology Center. No, it's 49 hectares, and our house and lots there range from 2.7 to 7.9, and we also sell lots from 1.1 to 3.9. Next slide. And here in we have a beachfront second home kind of project in San Juan, Batangas. It's called Seafront. It's 43 hectares. Here the target market is a little bit more high end. Our house and lots are going for 10.3 to 19.8 million. We're selling lots from 4.9 to 16.5 million. And we're also selling condos from 6 to 7.5. So this has a nice, this is a beachfront development. Next slide. Now in Cebu, no? So I've shown you our projects in Luzon, Central Luzon and South Luzon. Now let's go to Cebu. We also have several projects in Cebu. Right now, our fastest selling project, no, is what we call Amoa. It's in Compostela. No, it's in the northern part of Cebu. The total area is 16 hectares, 60 hectares, sorry. Again, we're selling house and lots there from 3.4 to 5.1 million and lots from 1.7 to 3.7 million. Next slide. And we also have sort of a high-end type developments as well in Cebu. One of them is called Pristina North Residence. You know? So this is a fairly exclusive type of development. It's in Talamban, Cebu City. The land area is 39 hectares. And our house and lots there go from 10.4 to 12.3 million. And lots for 15 million because they're fairly big lots sizes. Next slide. So another sort of high-end but more of a second home, maybe retirement type development is what we call our Foresa Mountain Town because this is located way up in the mountains in Alamban. No? So here the total area of the project is 250 hectares and we only sell lots starting at 3.6 to 9.3 million. Next slide. And we have another high-end type development in Cebu. It's called Privea Hills. It's in Bacaya, Cebu City. So the total area is about 60 hectares with lots. We're only selling lots there from 5.6 to 13.3 million. Okay. Next slide. For our commercial, okay, we basically have 2 major commercial developments. This we call the outlets at Lipa. It's really a low density type of mall. It is on a 9.3 hectare property, very sprawling. The gross leasable area is 27,000 gross leasable. So as the name implies, no, it's an outlet mall. No, so basically what we have here are, you know, Nike, H&M, but on an outlet format, no, with a number of restaurants as well. So this is located in our Lima Technology Center. Our other outlets format is in Cebu. It's called the outlets of Pueblo Verde. So if you're familiar with Cebu, this is located in the Mez Mactan Eco Zone, which is very close to the airport. You know, it's a joint venture between Aboitiz Land and the MCIAA. So it's very similar to the outlets format that we have in Lipa, where we've got the outlet formats for the retail as well as restaurants. Okay, next slide. And now here our third business line, which is also a very, I think this is what Aboitiz has been known for now, is really our industrial business. You know? So this industrial businesses, we have 3. Okay. The first one is located in Lipa, Malbar, Batangas. It's called the Lima Technology Center. It's 510 industry. It's the area is 510. We have over 100 locators mostly Japanese companies like Epson, Fuji, and all that. And up right now, we have approximately 50,000 employees that work there. So this is this is our prime industrial development for Aboitiz Island. Next slide. The second one is, as I mentioned earlier, is the Mactan Economic Zone, which is located in Lapu-Lapu City. It's a 63-hectare industrial estate where we also have various locators, a joint partnership with the MCIA. And then the third and last industrial park is also in Cebu, in Balamban. It's called the West Cebu Industrial Park. This is a joint venture, a 268-hectare industrial estate, which is a joint venture with the Tunisia Group, which is one of the largest shipbuilding companies in Japan. So not surprisingly, the majority of the area here is occupied by Tunisia, as well as other locators which are involved in some way in the shipbuilding industry. Next slide. So just to here for our industrial parks, I just want to mention that going forward, one of the plans that we have is we want to develop these industrial parks into more mixed use, master plan integrated developments. So whereas before they were more single use, where we just had industrial, but now we're remaster planning all of it so that we will add commercial, residential, institutional uses, so that we will have a more live, work, play environment. And later on, I'll show you some of the trends why we decided to do something like this now. Okay, next. So now let me just enumerate a few of the trends that I had mentioned earlier. That a lot of these we gleaned from the research that was done, a study that was done by Lamudi. Next slide. Okay. So one of the insights that we got in that Lamudi study, and this is interesting because this study, that's why we sort of paid really close attention to it, is because unlike other surveys where they ask you questions and you never really know how reliable the answers are, in the case of Lamudi, the responses really are people who go to the site and who really click and who really, so it's more reliable. That we feel that the data, the market surveys done by Lamudi is perhaps more reliable. And one of the interesting insights they had there was during the lockdown, during the lockdown period from March to May, they noticed that the interest in real estate persisted, even during the lockdown. And so here, if you will notice the graph, while there was a 20% decline in real estate transactions, they noticed that there was a 31% increase in returning visits. In other words, these are people before who inquired about real estate and then sort of fell off, but now returned and revisited and renewed their interest in real estate. So this was an interesting insight that in spite of the lockdown, people continued to have a strong interest in property. Next slide. Another insight that we got from that study is, again, because we're trying to figure out how people's tastes and preferences have started evolving because of their experience of the pandemic, of the lockdown, safety procedures, resiliency, all that stuff, right? And one of the interesting insights that we got from that study again was they noticed that now people were beginning to be more open to look at properties outside dense CBDs. Whereas before, the default preference of people was if they wanted to buy property, they wanted it to be near the CBD or in the CBD so that they'd be close to work, they'd be close to the malls, they'd be close to the MRT and so forth and so on. But with this study, they noticed that they have started to see a shift. And I guess probably because of work from home, people say, why do I need to be living in CBDs and in dense areas when I don't need to be very close to work because of work from home? So they noticed that there has been an 83% increase of respondents who are now open to CBD as well as non-CBD locations as the location of their property purchase. So that's a very interesting insight. Next slide. Okay. The other trend that we're seeing, although this one is still in its infancy, but we think there's a lot of potential, particularly for the type of projects that we have, which are all located outside of Metro Manila, is this Balik Probinsya program that is being pushed by the government now. And really the intention here is to decongest Metro Manila. And because the congestion, it's not favorable to things like this pandemic, where you have to observe a lot of social distancing. So this is a development that we are watching very closely, because I think this will be very beneficial, not just for us, but I think for a lot of other developers as well. As it will spur economic growth in the province. Next slide. And so because of this Balik Probinsya, another trend that I think we all in the property business should be following very closely is the Build, Build, Build program, which in the last SONA of the President Duterte, he mentioned that the government will still continue to push, notwithstanding all the difficulties of the pandemic. But what I want to cite here are specifically the programs that are, number one, being that are going to be really beneficial to property developers like ourselves, and number two, projects that are on PPP basis. In other words, it's private sector led. So you know that there is a higher probability that those things will be done as compared to if it was purely government. Okay, so what are these projects that we think that we all should be quite excited about, because it will be very beneficial? Next slide. Next slide. Next slide, please. Hello. Next slide. There. Okay. So one of them is, you probably know about the pre-slide. Previous slide. Okay. So again, so one of them, you're probably aware of this. Now this one at least is already being undertaken, and they have a project completion date, the NLEX SLEX Connector Road. So I think this will be very, very beneficial because it's now going to connect both the NLEX and the SLEX Skyway. So it's going to be really make properties in the south and in the north very attractive. So, and as I said, this is a project that's being undertaken by the San Miguel Group. So we know that this is really going to happen, and it will be completed. And again, this will be very beneficial to all of these property developments in the outskirts in the north and south Luzon. Next slide. So the other the project I'd like to talk about is the Skyway Stage 3. Again, this is a PPP project, so it's a private sector led. So again, there is a targeted completion date by next year. So it's an elevated expressway designed to ease traffic towards through access ramps and interchange. So in other words, North and South Luzon projects will be more accessible, because it will basically avoid the Metro Manila traffic. Next slide. So the other interesting infrastructure project is the SLEX Skyway Extension. Again, this will be completed by 2021. It's a 4-kilometer elevated viaduct which serves an extension on both directions of the Skyway from the toll plaza linking to Susana Heights. So again, this will cut travel time to Batangas by at least an hour. Next slide. Then, of course, we have the TPLEX extension. Although this one is still for NEDA IC approval, but again, PPP. So it's a 59.4-kilometer road that will extend all the way to La Union And so it aims to facilitate connectivity to Central Luzon and Metro Manila. Next slide. And of course, the Clark International expansion, airport expansion, which is nearing completion. So I think this is really going to be a main driver of development in that whole Central Luzon area. So for all of you who have projects there in Central Luzon, I think this is a very welcome development. Next slide. And then of course there's the Manila Clark Railway. I think this is to further enhance the Clark Airport, because it's now going to create that direct access from Manila to Clark, So because that has always been, I think, the drawback of Clark, that it was very far from Manila as a main hub, But I think this one will address that problem. So again, it's happening, and there is a timetable for its completion. Next slide. And then, of course, there's also the Central Luzon Link Expressway. Again, this will enhance developments in Tarlac, Cabanatuan, Nueva Ecija, as it will reduce travel time from 1 hour, 10 minutes to 20 minutes. Next slide. And then this is the last one I want to talk about, the Metro Cebu. Again, this is a 73.7 road that it will really reduce travel time from Naga to Danao, and it will be, again, very beneficial for all of these developments that are in these areas. Okay, so I guess when you look at all of these last one pala, the fourth, Mactan Cebu. This one is projected for completion, so we're now going to have by 2028 a fourth Mactan Cebu bridge. It's going to be completed again through private sector initiative. So as you know, Cebu's traffic is really getting to be quite intense, so this will be a big help. Next. Okay. So I guess what I want to just point out, and maybe this is just not about Island, but when you look at all of those infrastructure developments, and this will explain as well our strategy in why we chose developments in this area, is because we wanted to really take advantage and benefit from all of these future infrastructure developments. Because we know that once infrastructure is in place, then it will really be very positive. It'll make the property, the areas there, properties in that area, very, very attractive. Okay, next slide. Okay, so here's another trend that we saw from the Lamudi study. Another trend that we saw was in that survey, they noticed that there was now a growing trend towards people's preference for house and lots as opposed to purely condo. So if you look at this graph, they noticed that now nearly 23% of people now have expressed an openness and a preference for house and lots, whereas before their preference was only purely high density condos. So maybe this is again a result of the experience with the pandemic, with the lockdown, how important it is to have an environment that is, has open space and so forth. Now, next slide. So here we just want to show you some of the projects that we have that address that need for open space. These are just some videos of some of our projects. And it sort of really addresses that changing preference of people for more open space. Okay. Of course, work from home. As I said, I mentioned a while ago, work from home is here to stay. I think that even after COVID, even after they discovered the vaccine, work from home is really going to be a permanent working arrangement. And so with work from home, suddenly the need to be located in a BGC, in a Makati, in Quezon City, in one of these congested areas, is not as crucial. It's not as important, because you don't have to go to work every day. And so this opens up a lot of opportunities for developers and developments outside of these areas and offer more open space, so better quality of life. Next slide. No, for example, just to give an example. No? So for example, we have this development in seafront, right? So even if you're here, you're by the beach, this can actually be your office, right? Because you don't have to be in Makati or in BGC every day. You can be here. And in fact, it's happening. A lot of our buyers who have now moved in have been posting pictures that their houses here in seafront or in Foresa or where they are enjoying all that open space, the sea and all that open air is actually their office environment. Next slide. So as I said, together with these outdoor spaces is deemed safer. There is now a growing appreciation for open space. And so we think that with this pandemic experience, people now will start putting more emphasis on finding homes that will give them this amenities. Next page. All right. Okay, so this is just some examples of how our projects are responding to that evolving need for open space. Next page. Okay. And I guess here, with this pandemic, I think really whatever your business is, whether you're in real estate, whether you're in fast consumer goods, whatever your industry is in, you've got to really be very active online. You really have to work with this limitation of not having very limited face-to-face contact. So brands now will thrive, will be strengthened online, and through contactless delivery of service. I think this is a new reality that all of us have to face. Next slide. Now, so this is the last part of my presentation. So I guess one thing that we're doing differently with Avoid This Land in response to all of this now, I guess, and it's just not us, I guess all developers are doing this as well, because of the limitations of the lockdown limitations because of social distancing. You really had to pivot and develop your own online selling process. So from getting leads, generating leads through digital, through the various digital formats, whether it be through your website, social media, email, property listing. So this is what we've been doing. You can't leaflet, you can't be in booths, you can't do physically going after leads. So you get them online, right? And once you get them online, we try to, of course, we profile them. We first find out what their interests are in terms of location, what their capability is, what their preferences are, so that by the time we bring them and assign them to specific sellers, we know we have some idea of what their preferences are. And then again, through online contactless process, goes to a sales team, and hopefully it's closed. So what are the next slide, please? Okay. Now, of course, the three challenges in selling real estate amidst this pandemic is, of course, the first is tripping. We all know that. I mean, it's an essential component of any real estate transaction. But it's not available, right? So in place of the site visits and all that, we have invested in all of our projects virtual tours, because that's the only way I think that they can see the projects without really having to physically go there. And we've got these virtual tours available for our projects. Secondly, another important component of real estate, next slide, is you have to be able to talk to, before someone can buy and decides to buy real estate, I think they have to be able to talk to an actual person I don't think they can really, I don't believe that it can be done purely online. At some point, they have to talk to somebody, but again, because of social distancing, it has to be done through online. No? So we make this available. They can request a meeting with one of our sellers, and they can have a Zoom or whatever Facebook meeting. Again, no physical contact. And lastly, okay, once the buyer is convinced and wants to proceed with the transaction, again, we have to make available the process to get the reservation. No, in other words, having them filling up the documents again through online, providing the documents that we need to be able to close the transaction. So that we make available as well. No, and finally, lastly, of course, the payment. No, whether it be the payment for the reservation, the payment for the monthly amortization. Before the pandemic, this was done through post-dated checks. But now that it's more difficult to do, we've made available various online payment options, no, for all of these payments, whether it be through Union Bank, BDO, Metrobank, next slide, BPI, or through our own Aboitiz-Land website. No, so we've made many options available to the buyer so that it will be very convenient for them to do the payments, not just for the reservation, but even for the monthly. So that's it. I hope I've given you an overview, a good overview of Aboitiz-Land, our projects, how our various projects are actually sinking in or online with the changing trends brought about by this pandemic, no, and how we have responded, no. We've pivoted our processes to be able to adjust to this new normal. So for all of you who are real estate brokers, sellers, if you're interested, we'll be happy to accredit you and to work with you so that you can include our projects in your portfolio. Thank you very much.
Reinvention, the driving force behind the legacy of Davis Paints for the past 3 decades of excellence. Founded in 1982, Charter Chemical and Coating Corporation, manufacturer of Davis Paints, planted its roots in Pasig City. Today, it is the youngest yet fastest growing paint company in the Philippines, with offices in Bacolod, Cagayan de Oro, Cebu, Davao, and Zamboanga, and soon in Iloilo and Naga. As plants and production grew, relationships with partners and dealers matured along with it. As we are trusted to give only the best, Davis loyal partners have time and again come back to us with projects both big and small, professional and personal, local and abroad. In recent years, Davis Paints has begun to expand its reach in various countries across the Pacific, building connections with Cambodia, China, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Palau, and Vietnam. This varied multinational market has given Davis the privilege of being the #1 in Philippine paint exports, above any other local paint company. Even with 30 years of industry experience, Davis Paints continues to learn, challenge, and innovate to evolve with the times, providing only the best to the people it values. Davis, paint reinvented.
Okay, thank you, Davis. Also, thank you, CEO President David Rafael, for that informative talk. Now we've come to the open forum. Moderators are Andrea Chair Emerita and Chair Lady of our NREA advisors, Marisa Del Mar, and Board of Advisor, Andy Manala.
Yes. Good afternoon. Thank you so much. And thank you very much for being with us in our NREA Business Forum on managing real estate risk. To thank personally Professor Enrique Soriano, of course, from the Executive Director of Wong Bernstein Group, of course, our Deputy CEO of Pag-ibig Fund, our good friend, Deputy CEO Marlene Acosta, and of course, our President and CEO of Aboitiz, President Rafael David. Thank you so much with us, especially thank you for our sponsors, for our board of architect Grace Layog, of course, and our chapter vice president Zenaida Fruto, to our very good host, of course, Vice President for Internal Affairs Mel Magtoto, and SecGen Jovi Tupas. I would like to thank personally everybody who's joining us here from Zoom and from our FB page of NREA Philippines. It's a great honor to be with you this afternoon. I would like to welcome my co-moderator, our past president, Andy Manala. Where are you, Andy?
Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. It was a very, very nice and a very engaging talks from our three very special guests. And I think we've got very important information that we can use to navigate dito sa challenges. I would call it challenges na hinaharap natin yan. Good afternoon, kapatid.
That's right, kapatid. And I would like to shoot the first question. And this question goes to Professor Soriano. Professor Soriano, please describe the current risk profiles of the world economy and that of the Philippines amidst the COVID-19 pandemic in a very simple manner that everybody could understand, yung parang common language natin. Thank you so much. Professor Soriano?
Thank you, Marisa. How can I simplify? For those who have been through the 97, 98 Asian financial crisis, we can, as I mentioned earlier in my talk, most economists all over the world are saying that this pandemic is worse than the Asian financial crisis. For those who have been and experienced the crisis, it was unprecedented during its time, except that it was merely a financial contagion, which means that the only remedy then was to simply bail out those who borrowed the foreign-denominated exchange. Nanghiram ng dollars, and then nagkaroon ng crisis, and then hindi na makabayad, so their properties and their developments were foreclosed. Ultimately, the only remedy there and the cure was to bail them out. Ito yung sa atin kasi, it's different, no? It's a health crisis that has morphed into a global health crisis, became a pandemic, and then nagkaroon ng financial crisis. Now it is an economic crisis, and it has affected 207 economies. So ang sa akin, it's unprecedented. It is a big issue how you can navigate this adversity. Mabigat to ito. The only good thing is that in 98, ang financial structure natin ay very chaotic. Ang financial infrastructure natin ngayon ay stable, very solid. Ang fundamentals ng Pilipinas ngayon maayos. And in most countries, because of governance, medyo naayos na rin nila. So, ang recovery natin ay contingent on two things. First, pag nagkaroon ng vaccine, which will now allay the fears of many, magkakaroon uli ng robust and energized confidence sa merkado. And number two, pag nagkaroon ng united front to combat this invisible enemy. So, ang expectation ko dito ay give or take mga 4-5 quarters, we will be able to quietly recover. It's not going to be a major bounce back, but at least recovery will be felt, no? perhaps on the second and third quarter next year.
Thank you so much, Professor Soriano. The good thing is that we are very optimistic that this pandemic will
Yes.
soon, and hopefully the economy will bounce back to its new normal, maging fully normal na. Thank you so much for that wonderful answer, Professor Soriano.
You're welcome.
Andy, can you shoot on the next question? Because
Yes.
we have a lot of questions in our chat box.
Yeah, we have a lot of interesting questions. Now, I'd like to direct this question to Madam Marlene Acosta. She has discussed about the program dun sa loan interest rate promo ng Pag-ibig. So, in the interest of time, we won't ask her to elaborate on that. But then, we'd like to know, there's a question. We understand that this promo program covers loan accounts taken out beginning July 1st and loan application delivered to or received by Pag-ibig beginning July 1st, but which must be taken out after December 31. Could you confirm on this information, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Sir Andy. The promo rates is applicable to new takeouts starting July 1, 2020. And it is also applicable to applications filed until December 29, 2020. This means then, since it's only filed, we'll have to evaluate, issue the notice of approval, and possibly the takeout will happen next year, 2021.
Okay.
Until not later than June 30, 2021, because if the applications are filed December 29, we should be able to issue the notice of approval by end of January at the latest. And the notice of approval has a validity of 90 days, though we also extend it for another 60 days. So that should be at the latest takeout is June 30, 2021.
Okay. In connection with that, ma'am, what about the housing loans still being processed and pending takeout at the time of the effectivity of the promo?
They're
Will their
all covered,
documents covered that? Okay.
Covered, but there is no need to change or redocument, because take note, this is a promo. Still, the interest is at 6.375, but since it's a promo rate, they will enjoy the 5.375. Take note that the interest rate, the lowering is conditional po.
Yes, ma'am.
For the borrower to enjoy the three-year low interest rate at 5.375, the account should be performing at the end of the first year to be able to enjoy it on the second year and then on the third year.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification, ma'am. Kapatid, you have
Yes, I will
other questions.
have a follow-up question. CEO Marlene, please, we have a question here that, of course, there are the common concern about loan borrowers, the originators, and the housing developers. How does the loan takeout happen prior to COVID-19? And with the expected inflow of loans under the promo program, do we have enough personnel para po magtrabaho in this pandemic times? I know it's too hard for everyone. Yeah.
Yes, Ma'am Marisa. Before the COVID, our processing time, if for a Window 1 developer assisted account, processing or approval should take not more than 6 days, and take out or release of the loan proceeds no more than 3 days. A total of 9 days for Window 1. For Window 2, processing and issuance of notice of approval takes 14 days maximum, and release of the loan proceeds will be not more than 7 working days. For the retail account, it's 17 days processing and approval, and then 7 days release of takeout proceeds.
So,
however, during the pandemic, admittedly, we encountered delays, but I would like to clarify that we did not reduce our personnel.
okay.
All our personnel are, we do not, they're all reporting, but on alternative work arrangement.
Okay.
About 10% of our personnel are working from home because they are age 60, pregnant, etc. But the remaining 90% are assigned on 2 shifts. We created 2 teams so that, God forbid, somebody gets infected with COVID, we have a spare tire. But maybe you will ask, how come there are delays in the release of takeout? Because there are 2 activities that we need to undertake. The conduct of the credit investigation. This entails calling the employers to verify if this is their employee and the income as stated in their income document is correct. Another one is the borrower's validation, because we have to talk to the borrower. For the credit investigation, we have difficulty receiving or getting replies from employers, because just like us, they also have alternative work arrangements. They say that, let's say HR, they just report when they prepare the payroll. So even we send them the email, even we call them several times, within 5 days, we do not get a ready immediate response. So that really delays. That's why the developers may say it's always for CI, for conduct of CI. Then it stays. Otherwise, if we don't get any reply from the employer, we will drop the application. We will return it to the developer.
Okay.
Likewise with the borrower's validation. Before the COVID, we can do borrower's validation in groups. Okay, the developer will set borrower's validation on site or in our office by group, but now we can hardly do that because of the prohibition of mass gathering. So what we do now is also virtual. We contact the borrower via FB, Messenger, Zoom, Viber. Unfortunately, some borrowers say they don't want to answer us. Maybe they thought we are online sellers. So how can our partner developers help us? We requested our developers indicate in the application the best time to contact the employer and the best time to call the member borrower. Otherwise, it will really take long. Capacity is not a problem because we are in full force. Kahit po nanginginig sa COVID, we are in full force.
Yes. Thank you so
Yes.
much, CEO
Thank
Marlene. We have a lot of questions for you, but before we go into that, I don't know, Kapatid Andy, if you can read all the questions in the chat box, but then I have to ask, you can ask the first question to President Rafael first. Then we go back to the Deputy CEO Marlene, please.
Yes, thank you for that. Actually, that's exactly a very hot question that was raised in the chat box, because sabi nga, right now, since everybody is at home and we cannot do things physically, so a question to Aboitiz Land is that they've been it was mentioned that they continued to do online servicing to the clients during the ECQ. Now, compared to the time that they were doing this prior to the ECQ, what is a portion of their sales that were completed online? Mr. Dave?
Excuse me, Andy. I think Mr. David Rafael had to leave for a meeting.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That is confirmed, Kapatid Andy. We have to go back to the chat box question to CEO Marlene Acosta. And I will shoot this question for Pag-ibig Fund. CEO Acosta, hi, good day. This is John De Villa. Ma'am Acosta, I would like to know if hanggang saan po ang capacity ng Pag-ibig to absorb loans during these challenging times. Also, if ever banks will be stricter with their requirements in providing housing loan, can Pag-ibig fill in the void? If yes, how and what will be your limitation?
Our target takeout for this year is actually 100 billion.
Oh,
but because of the pandemic, we recalibrated our targets to around 85 billion, but we are already up to 100 billion this year.
Wonderful. Another follow-up question po, Mama Costa, since the maximum loanable amount is 6 million, will the Pag-ibig consider tying up with developers of condominium projects in Metro Manila?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, we have accredited condominium developers in Metro Manila and nationwide. Around 20% of our takeout is condominium units.
Thank you. Thank you, Mama Costa. Andy, kapatid Andy,
Okay.
can you put on the chat box?
Yes, this one's for Professor
Yes.
Professor Eric.
Yeah.
Okay. With the downturn of the economy, the government is now on deficit spending, which means the government will have to borrow or issue some bonds, which will in turn put pressure on interest rates on loans. How will this affect the real estate business? And connected with that is a question of Boss Bansan. How can the government sector help the private sector?
Okay. That's actually a very valid question. The government is fearful that if they borrow externally, it's going to be a deficit. It's going to balloon, and their external debt to GDP ratio will go up, and they will be in the league of other economies that are likely to fall into a debt trap, especially when their maturing debts are going to happen by the end of this year. So I'm talking about Thailand. If you look at some numbers in Thailand, even if their COVID was mitigated, their maturing debts is due sometime October, November, December, which means that their debt to equity ratio, their debt to GDP ratio is going to have an impact on their economy. And therefore, you see a slide in their GDP by as much as around -6 to -7. That's what this government is trying to avoid. However, other economists, macroeconomists are saying you need to prime the market with fresh funds because of the uncertainty. You need to, just like what China is doing, even if they contracted already, they're pushing the envelope to the point that people are now going out and creating revenue streams, no? Despite the fear of the pandemic. So what am I saying here? There is a tentative nature from the government in pursuing certain economic tools because it appears that there has been a failed undertaking on this on curbing this pandemic. So plus the fact that it's politically tainted also. There are a lot of issues on the political front, and therefore there seems to be a bit of hesitation. What I can say truthfully about this government, it is tired, it is depleted, it is overwhelmed, and we need to help them as much as they should be helping us. Now, in the question of Bansan on how this government can help us, I think fundamentally they have to get people, businessmen, stakeholders as part of the IATF team. I think that's very simple, that's very basic. In Singapore, the circuit breakers are all part of a big subset of business stakeholders. Aside from the health, aside from the military, the stakeholders should be mostly on the business front. Unfortunately, kulang, it's not there. So that is one way that the government can probably help us swing some support. No? Number two, a lot of moratorium should happen. This government must initiate a lot of moratorium, a lot of rent relief. In other countries where we've done research, you'd see debt moratorium for as long as 6 months to 1 year for developers because they have been impacted. We haven't seen or heard and felt that in this government. Number two, their state and regulatory powers can easily impose a lot of incentives for those who are willing to to push the envelope further and invest some more. No? The tax code can be tweaked, essentially. And that will benefit the small businesses, us, the small players. Hotel industry needs so much lifeline. They're practically impacted, they're damaged, they're not dead, but they're damaged. Mortgage relief, construction, developers, they all need a lot of moratorium on taxes, which the government can actually do. So, especially those that are critically in need of expedited cash flow. In short, there are so many measures that will provide a lot of lifeline for the stakeholders, for them not necessarily to bounce back, but to stave a rapidly deteriorating business environment. Actually, napakadami. If they just do their homework well, I think this government can be able to swing back the necessary confidence. Yun.
Okay, thank you. But in connection with that, would you have any, let's say, one particular measure that specifically for the real estate industry that the government could do to help our developers and also, I mean, the industry as a whole?
Well, as I mentioned, the possible recovery of the property sector and construction is likely to be sometime first and second quarter of next year, which means one simple incentive is to subsidize expenses on construction companies that might have employees that have been infected. As basic as that, fundamental, no? In other countries, they're willing to subsidize compensation. They're willing to shoulder a significant amount just so workers can continue working, and you now encourage employment. That's very simple. That's very basic. But apparently in our economy, in our sector, parang to each his own, no? Kanya-kanyahan eh.
Yeah.
No, government appears to be overwhelmed,
nagiging
neglected itong sector, but we all know for a fact that if we can just rally all the members of this sector to go out and with the government support on hospitalization and subsidies, including rent relief, including moratorium on debt payments, including zero interest payments for debt, I think this sector will come out alive and kicking. DTI came up with a measly 1 billion peso small business loan. Yes, zero interest. Pero in our study in WB, it can only service 2,000 companies. There are 1 million, almost 1,100,000 SMEs. It can only service 2,000. I recommended 140 billion to save 200,000 companies with an average lending of around 200 to 500,000 pesos. 1 billion, then after the overwhelming application, pinatigil na ng DTI kasi wala na daw pera. Punta ka na sa bangko. But pumunta ka naman sa bangko, kahit mababa interest rates, anong sasabihin ng bangko? Hindi ka namin kilala eh. Your credit worthiness is a big question mark. So, credit squeeze. And we have no control of the banks. So that's what I'm saying. The ecosystem appears to be clogged. And the government is also depleted. And we, as a private sector, are just waiting for them to ask us, help us. And we will be there to lead the way.
Wow, thank you.
Nice, nice. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Professor Soriano. I would like to, President Ricky will ask a question, but I would like first to acknowledge the presence of our former Bulacan Governor, our NREA VP Obet Pagdanganan with us. Of course, our Board of Advisor also, Bansancho, was here with us. President Ricky, are you ready now to shoot the question to CEO Marlene Acosta of Pag-ibig?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, thank you very much for joining us. Question ko lang is in relation to the risk topic that we have right now. And we've seen BSP talking to various banks about their credit policies. Has Pag-ibig also adjusted to more stringent level their credit policies? And are we seeing any changes, ma'am, probably rise in non-performing loans on Pag-ibig right now? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The only actually procedure which we naman change, but it's just expected because of the crisis. Previously, we conduct advanced CI for our borrowers. But now, with the pandemic and with the pronouncements of so many affected sa unemployment, before takeout, we do RECI. We need to check if the borrower or the applicant is still employed. Because we do not want a situation po that we take out now the first amortization, the borrower cannot pay. That will impact on the sustainability of Pag-ibig Fund and on the interest rates in the years to come. Because the performing loans ratio is one important factor in our setting of interest rates for our borrowers. That is actually where the delay is coming from, the conduct of the CI. Previously, the CI has a validity of 6 months, but now we cannot even say that it has a validity of 30 days. So our request to the developer, help us. Before you deliver to us the folders for takeout, please do your own CI para mabilis po yung takeout. And for those who really lost their jobs, baka pwedeng i-waitlist nyo po. Don't cancel because we want to extend more loans as much as possible so that we can help in the economic recovery, but we also have to consider the sustainability of the fund.
Yes, thank you so much, CEO Marlene Acosta. May we, let's be ready for our NREA chapter presidents. Maybe they want to ask some questions. And then this is from DMC. Do we have feedback already if lowering of VAT ceiling will be deferred or it will be pushed this January 2021? Anybody who would like to answer, Professor Soriano or CEO Acosta?
I'm not privy to the VAT, but if you ask me, there should be a 1-year moratorium of the VAT. That has been my position ever since, because that can be controlled by the government. It's a regulated policy. So kaya nila yan kung kaya nila ibigay.
Yes. What can you say, CEO Acosta?
I also share the position of Professor Soriano, but we have to take note too that our government needs money.
Yeah.
So
let me add to that, Ma'am Marie.
Yes.
Actually, our group and several developer groups, including SHDAP, we did a joint letter to the DOF and also to DTI requesting such deferment of the effectivity of that lowering of the threshold of the VAT from 3.199 to 2 million. Effectively, dapat January 1, 2021. So we sought their approval to defer it for at least 1 year, not only because of, again, the capacity to pay issues right now of our homeowners and various home seekers, but also to help the developers also sell faster also. We are on a recovery mode, and we need all the help we can get. So this is also supported by our dear Secretary, Ed Del Rosario. They also wrote a letter to DOF requesting and actually echoing the sentiments of the developer groups to defer such effectivity date to a later date siguro, probably January 2022. If tama yung prediction ni Professor Eric, baka by that time recovery mode na tayo and we'll be able to absorb a 12% increase in prices, 2 million and up.
Thank you. Thank you, President Ricky. May we hear from Architect Grace Layog? I think she has some question before we hear from our NREA chapter who would like to ask questions. And thank you so much, Governor Obet, and he's very happy to be joining us this afternoon. Thank you po, Governor Obet, Dennis, to all our
Thank you, Governor.
our YouTube. Thank you, our followers. Thank you so much for following us. First of all, can you want to say something, Governor Obet? A greeting?
I just want to congratulate you, Chair Emeritus Marisa, for all the things you're doing, especially the presentation, also former President Andy, and everybody. Wonderful presentations. I caught up with most of them. All the best.
You're our area family.
Thank you, Governor.
Yeah, thank you.
We would like also, President Ricky, Andy, we would like to congratulate DZUD for having launched yesterday the publication by virtual publication of the DZUD family. Congratulations, CEO Acosta. Of course, to Secretary Ed Del Rosario. We are all present yesterday during the virtual launch of the publication. And to continue, yes,
Ms.
there are,
Marisa?
yes, Architect Grace Layog, our chairwoman. Yes, your question, Architect Grace? Ay, nakamute siya. Nakamute.
Okay.
Nakamute.
Ay, ito.
Sorry, the question is not, can we go back to Andy?
Doon sana ako mag-ano. Hello.
Okay.
O, wag ka na mag-ano na, oo. Tapos, ito, ano gusto?
Okay. There was an intermission there. Okay. Now,
Andy?
yes.
Time check lang. Maybe we can probably entertain one more question and then we can
Yes.
move on to the certificates and then virtual photo shoot and then closing remarks.
All right.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Architect Grace na ba? O, sino na?
Yes, let's have the final question from Architect Grace.
Architect Grace?
Sorry, back to Andy. The questions are not with me.
Okay. All right. We would like to personally thank, because I think we're over time already. We would
Doing the closing remarks.
we would like to have our closing remarks first. Our MC, Jovi, for our closing remarks.
Yes, we would like to
give
show
the
first our certificates. We will be flashing the certificates and our certificates of appreciation to our two speakers, which will be read by our Chair Emerita, Ms. Marisa Delmar, and Mr. Andy Manyanak.
Okay. The National Real Estate Association of the Philippines present this certificate of appreciation to Professor Enrique Soriano in his sincere appreciation of your invaluable service to the association, particularly as a guest of honor and speaker during the NREA Business Forum online managing real estate risk, July 30 via Zoom and NREA Philippines Facebook Live, signed by our Board Chair Lady, Architect Grace Layog, our National President Ricky M. Celis, our Sec Gen Jovi Francis Tupas, and yours truly, Chair Emerita and Chair Lady Board of Advisors Marisa Delmar. Thank you so much, Professor
Thank
Soriano.
you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Andy, can you do the honors?
Okay. Now for our another very special speaker, we'd like to award the certificate of appreciation to Ms. Marlene G. Acosta in sincere appreciation of your invaluable service to the association, particularly as a special guest during the NREA Business Forum online, managing real estate risks on July 30 via Zoom and NREA Philippines Facebook Live, signed by Chair Lady Grace Layog, President Ricky Celis, Madam Marisa Delmar, Chairman Emeritus, and Sec-Gen Jovi Tupas. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Andy Manyanak and Chair Emerita Ms. Marisa Delmar. At this point, may I request everyone to kindly turn their videos on or cameras on for our virtual photo shoot. Secretariat, kindly take photos. for record purposes.
Mr. Jovi, I'll present the certificate of appreciation to Mr. David Rafael.
Oh, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
The National Real Estate Association, Inc., the one-stop trade organization, proudly presents the certificate of appreciation to Mr. David L. Rafael. In sincere appreciation of his invaluable service to the association, particularly as a special guest and speaker during the NREA Business Forum Online entitled Managing Real Estate Risk on July 30, 2020 via Zoom and NREA Philippines Facebook Live. Signed, yours truly, Grace S. Layug, Board Chair Lady, Ms. Marisa Dalmar, our Chair Emerita and Chair Lady of the Board of Advisors, Mr. Ricky Celis, our National President, and Mr. Jovi Francis Tupas, our Secretary General.
Thank you very much to our NREA Board Chair Lady, Architect Grace Layug. So again, continuing on, kindly turn your cameras on for everyone so that we may take a virtual photograph of everyone else. Okay, so Secretariat.
Then we'll have the closing remarks of Architect Grace Layug.
So everybody smile.
Jovi, can we have the closing remarks of our Chair Lady?
Yes, okay.
Again, we would like to thank our guest speakers for today, our sponsors, and all of you, our viewers, who continue to support NREA as we continue to strive for excellence in the service of our brothers in the real estate industry. We are all in a very challenging situation. Businesses are suffering tremendously, but remember, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. And we, the industry players, could really help to see that light sooner rather than later. As Professor Soriano has said, there is that choice, the choice to move forward. We have to adopt early to survive. The late American Railroad executive Russell Sage sums up the importance of real estate and indirectly its players when he said, real estate is an imperishable asset, ever increasing in value. It is the most solid security that human ingenuity has devised. It is the basis of all security and about the only indestructible security. More direct to the point is American real estate investor and philanthropist Louis Glickman, who said that the best investment on earth is earth. Till our next business forum, save earth and stay safe. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Congratulations, Grace Layug, our Board Chair Lady, our National President, Ricky Celis, our Vice Chairman, Benigno Cabrieto. To my co-moderator, past President, Chairman Andy Manyalak, of course, to our unbeatable and very, very good guests of honor and speakers, Professor Soriano, and of course, our Deputy CEO of Pag-ibig, Ms. Marlena Costa. We love you and we will be looking forward for more future webinars with you. To our Board of Trustees, to our Board of Advisors, to Governor Obet, Advisor Bansan Chowa, of course, to Mel Magtoto, ang galing-galing, at saka ni Jovi, Tupas, our MCs, and of course, our NREA chapters. We love you. Sayang, kulang na yung oras natin. Yung kumari ko, ayan, si President Emily Polido ng Makati CBD. Hello. Our chapter VP, Zenny Fruto, we love you so much. Everybody, we love you. And our parting words, President Ricky.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Meron na naman tayong susunod next month. In the meantime, we will continue with our advocacy, serving everyone in the real estate industry, of course, the members and NREA. This afternoon is one important event again. We will be meeting our chapter officers, our chapter officers, para lang we can hear out their issues, their challenges, and how we can help on the national level yung ating mga regional officers and regional membership. So again, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We leave you with one more video, courtesy of Ma'am Grace Layug. Paul, can you play our last video for the day? Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you.
On our third business forum on August 25, the New World Order, reshaping our cities and buildings.
Find a new place. Do you go for location? Energy efficiency, a fresh breeze, or having no brownouts? How about smart planning, engineering, give you all of these? Take a closer look at West Insula, where you get to live easier, live wiser. At West Insula, you get perks that make day-to-day living greater comfort. Just think of smart features. Full backup power. When brownouts happen in the rest of the city, keep the computer, air conditioner, and everything else you need up and running. West Insula provides full backup power in all rooms, in all units. Water saving system. When it comes to wise water management, West Insula is designed to collect, purify, and treat rainwater for use by homeowners, giving you practical savings. Smart vents. And how about staying cool even when the air conditioner is off? West Insula has well-concealed vents that promote optimal airflow through every room, even when the windows are closed. Maximum energy efficiency. West Insula is engineered for ultra-efficient energy consumption. Take advantage of the patented electrical loading system that delivers maximum power at minimum cost. What's more, every homeowner gets to monitor their power consumption right at their doorstep, so you pay only for your own bills. No shared costs, no hidden charges. Atrium. Unique to the design of West Insula is the atrium, a central shaft of wide open space at the core of the structure, offering the added advantages of free-flowing air, natural light, and a relaxing ambiance. Ready to take a look? West Insula, built by EGI and Maryleaf Realty, stands tall with 25 stories at the corner of West Avenue and EDSA Shopping District. A train station, medical clinics, and malls are also just a few minutes away, so you don't have to go far to get far. Intelligent innovations at prime locations. That's what smart engineering for practical living is all about. See one of Insula Condominium's masterpieces for yourself. Schedule a visit to West Insula today. Make the smart move.